September 15th, 1963, a Sunday morning in Birmingham, Alabama. Four young girls stood in the basement of the 16th Street Baptist Church, adjusting their white dresses, giggling, whispering secrets only best friends share. Addie Mae Collins, 14 years old. Cynthia Wesley, 14 years old. Carol Robertson, 14 years old. Denise McNair, 11 years old. In exactly 7 minutes, their names would be burned into history forever, and one man, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., would carry their memory like a wound that would never heal. This is the story the world forgot to tell. The story of the children Dr. King never forgot. The morning began like any other Sunday, September 15th, 1963. Birmingham, a city the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. had called the most segregated city in America, a city where hatred wore a uniform, where violence lurked in broad daylight. But inside the 16th Street Baptist Church there was light. Children's voices filled the sanctuary. 26 young souls preparing for Youth Day service. The theme, A Love That Forgives. In the women's lounge, a small basement room, 4 girls stood together. Addie Mae Collins had just gotten her hair done the night before. She was excited. Her mother had let her wear her favorite dress. Cynthia Wesley, adopted and deeply loved, had been talking about college. At 14, she already dreamed of becoming a teacher. Carol Robertson played clarinet in the school band. She was the kind of girl who smiled at everyone, the kind who made you feel seen. Denise McNair, the youngest, was full of life. Her father called her his little princess. She loved dancing, loved singing, loved Sundays at church. 10:19 a.m. The girls were laughing about something. No one remembers what. It doesn't matter now. Because at 10:22 a.m., Thursday turn, the world exploded. 19 sticks of dynamite, planted by members of the Ku Klux Klan beneath the church steps the night before, set on a timer designed to kill. When the bomb detonated, it tore through the eastern side of the church like the hand of evil itself. The blast was so powerful, it blew out the face of Jesus Christ from a stained glass window, everything destroyed except his feet. The symbol would haunt Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. for the rest of his life. Jesus, and with no face, only feet, still walking. Chaos erupted. Smoke, screaming, dust so thick you couldn't see your own hands. Parents running toward the church, children running out, bleeding, crying, covered in debris. 23 people were injured, but 4 girls never came out. Inside that basement women's lounge, beneath tons of brick and stone and shattered glass. Addie Mae Collins, Cynthia Wesley, Carol Robertson, Denise McNair. Their bodies were found together, still close, as if they'd held on to each other in those final seconds. Addie's head was nearly severed. Cynthia's face was gone. Carol and Denise were buried under rubble so heavy it took hours to pull them free. News traveled fast. By noon, the entire nation knew. By 1 p.m., Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. knew, and something inside him shattered. When Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. received the phone call, he was in Atlanta, preparing a sermon. The voice on the other end was shaking. "Martin, there's been a bombing. The 16th Street Church. Children are dead." Those who were with Dr. King that day said he went completely still, silent. Then he stood, grabbed his coat, and said only 2 words, "I'm going." His wife, Coretta, begged him not to. Birmingham was a powder keg. There were rumors of riots. White vigilantes were arming themselves. The Klan was celebrating. But Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. didn't hesitate. He arrived in Birmingham that evening, September 15th, just hours after the blast. What he saw would change him forever. The church was still smoking. Glass covered the streets like snow. Blood stained the concrete steps. But it was the faces that destroyed him. The parents. Mothers collapsed on the sidewalk, wailing names that would never answer. Fathers standing in silence, fists clenched, eyes empty. Chris McNair, Denise's father, stood alone staring at the rubble. His little girl, his princess, was still inside. He couldn't move, couldn't speak. Dr. King walked up to him, put a hand on his shoulder. And Chris McNair, this broken father, looked at Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and whispered, "Why, Reverend, why did they kill my baby?" Dr. King had no answer. For the first time in his life, the man who always had word had none. That night, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. sat in a Birmingham hotel room. Alone. Those who saw him said he wept. Not the silent tears of a man trying to be strong, but deep, guttural sobs, the kind that come from a place words can't reach. Because Dr. King understood something the world didn't yet grasp. These weren't just 4 girls. They were martyrs, innocents sacrificed on the altar of hatred. And he, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., had asked their community to fight without violence, to love their enemies, to turn the other cheek. Now 4 children were dead, and he wondered if his philosophy of nonviolence had failed them. But then something happened. Carol Robertson's mother, Alpha, called him. Through her tears, she said, "Reverend King, don't stop, don't you dare stop. My Carol believed in what you're doing. If you stop now, she died for nothing." One by one, the other parents said the same. The Collins family, the Wesleys, the McNairs, these grieving mothers and fathers, who had every right to burn the world down, chose something else. They chose Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s dream. They chose love. And that broke him even more, because now he couldn't fail them. He couldn't fail Addie, Cynthia, Carol, or Denise. September 18th, 1963, 3 days after the bombing, a joint funeral service for 3 of the girls, Addie Mae Collins, Carol Robertson, and Cynthia Wesley, was held at the 6th Avenue Baptist Church. Over 8,000 people attended. The church couldn't hold them all. Thousands stood outside in silence. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. stood at the pulpit. His face was drawn, exhausted, aged. He looked out at the 3 small white coffins in front of him, and he began to speak. His voice was steady, but those who knew him could hear it, the tremor beneath the surface, the barely contained rage, the overwhelming sorrow. He said, "These children, unoffending, innocent, and beautiful, were the victims of one of the most vicious and tragic crimes ever perpetrated against humanity." Then his voice rose. "But they did not die in vain. God still has a way of wringing good out of evil. History has proven over and over again that unmerited suffering is redemptive." He told the parents, the broken, weeping parents, that their daughters were martyrs, that their blood would water the seeds of freedom, that one day, because of Addie, Cynthia, Carol, and Denise, children of all colors would play together, learn together, live together. But here's what Dr. King didn't say publicly. Here's what he carried in silence. Later that day, he told a close friend, "I'll never forget their faces. Every time I close my eyes, I see them." And he didn't just mean the girls. He meant the parents, the fathers who couldn't protect their children, the mothers who would never hold them again. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. made a vow that day, a private sacred vow. He would never forget them. And he never did, For the remaining 5 years of his life, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. carried those 4 girls with him, everywhere. In 1964, when he won the Nobel Peace Prize, he thought of them. In 1965, when the Voting Rights Act passed, he thought of them. In 1968, in Memphis, the night before he died, when he gave his final speech, "I've been to the mountaintop," he thought of them. People close to Dr. King said he kept a photograph, a newspaper clipping of the 4 girls. He looked at it often, especially on the hard days, the days when the movement felt impossible, when the hatred felt too strong, when he questioned whether nonviolence could truly win. He would look at Addie, Cynthia, Carol, and Denise, and remember why he couldn't quit. Chris McNair, Denise's father, said something years later that reveals the depth of Dr. King's grief. He said, "Every year on September 15th, without fail, Dr. King would call our home. He never missed. He'd ask how we were doing, tell us he was thinking of Denise, that he'd never forget her. Every single year, until April 4th, 1968, when Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. himself was taken by an assassin's bullet. Today, the 16th Street Baptist Church still stands. A memorial honors Addie Mae Collins, Cynthia Wesley, Carol Robertson, and Denise McNair. Their names are carved in stone, but their legacy is carved in something deeper because of them. And because of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s refusal to let their deaths be meaningless, the Civil Rights Act of 1964 passed. The world changed, not immediately, not perfectly, but it changed. Dr. King once said, "Darkness cannot drive out darkness, only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate, only love can do that." 4 little girls taught him that truth in the most painful way imaginable, and he spent the rest of his life, every single day until his last breath, making sure the world would never forget them. Addie Mae Collins, Cynthia Wesley, Carol Robertson, Denise McNair. Say their names, remember them, and remember the man who loved them enough to carry their memory until the very end. This is Legends Untold Legacy, where the stories that shaped our heroes live forever.